If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories surrounding fitness and self-improvement which you can apply to your life today. So for those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I am your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 habits which you can use to push past all the negative thoughts that are usually circling your mind on a day-to-day basis. Because of course, as humans, it's very normal to have negative thoughts. However, we're going to learn how to act regardless of them. Because there's a really interesting fact that I found. According to the National Science Foundation, on average, a person has around 12 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and up to 80% of those are negative thoughts. So you've probably experienced this yourself, like a lot of your thoughts during your day tend to be negative. And there is reasoning for that, because as human beings, when we were kind of like in primitive times, we were built as humans, of course, to avoid danger. And to avoid danger, you have to think negatively. You have to foresee potential dangers and things which cause us to, for example, like anxiety and to worry and to get anxious and to start to overthink things and generally think negatively. So it came from that primitive time when our only mission was to survive. However, now we don't have that same kind of need to survive. We don't have as many like daily threats or anything like that, but we still have the abundance of negative thoughts in our life. And the important thing to remember with today's episode is I'm no guru that's going to tell you how to use these habits and you'll never think negatively again. However, what we will learn to do is better deal with negativity. Because as I said, it's essentially inevitable that negative thoughts are going to spiral in your head. It's how we work as human beings. However, we can deal with them much better. And there's 5 habits that we can use, which I use and employ with my clients, and that helps us push past these negative thoughts, which again circle on our mind every single day. So a really interesting one for this, because there's a really good quote by Gandhi, right? And what he said was, "A man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." And very simply, whatever we put in our mind, whatever the thoughts are circulating in our mind, we often become that. We are a product of that, of our thoughts, because our thoughts result in our actions, and our actions then dictate who we become. So to be able to somewhat control those thoughts or act regardless of them, of these negative thoughts, will push you further on in your own pursuit of constant improvement, with your fitness, with your self-improvement, to become that better person, that person you want to become. So with habit number 1, very simply, what we want to try and do is turn negativity into gratitude. Because what we see all too often is when something happens in our life, something negative, people just, they drown themselves on it, and no wonder their mind starts to spiral. However, what we can do is when something negative happens, we can look for the positive in it. We can be grateful for the positive. So I have a few examples here, very simply, like in the sense of, let's say you lost something, let's say you lost money, you lost a phone or whatever. Not a great experience. You tend to think negatively of that. However, what you can use this as is a valuable lesson. How did you lose it? Okay, well, I'm grateful that this isn't going to happen again because I learned from this mistake. We learn from our mistakes. We don't drown ourselves in them and let our mind kind of repeat over and over about them. We take the good from them because there's good in every single situation. No matter how bad it may seem in the beginning, there is somewhat good in it. We can find the tiniest bit of good which can help push out some of that overthinking, that negative thinking from there. Another one that's really interesting, it happens all the time, is let's say someone says something negative about you or to you. It's your choice how you interpret that. Now, I get it. Straight away, your brain takes it negatively. You don't like it. However, what you can then do from there is think of the positive in it. Well, at least I'm not like that person. Maybe you think of something positive about yourself. Is that even true what they said? No. Then fine. We need to stick to that thought. It wasn't true what they said. We move on from there. Because if you're anything like me, at times when you have these negative thoughts, you'll just repeat them over and over and over in your head. However, as I said, we can take some positive from that and try to repeat that. Because again, it is inevitable that these thoughts are going to happen. These bad things are going to happen in life. We are going to have negative circumstances impact us, but we can react differently. We can take something to be grateful for out of that situation from there. Because I used to be very unhappy with my physique, right? And what I took a huge positive from this negative thinking. So you'll definitely have experienced this before. Maybe you're unhappy with the position you're in life. Maybe it's your physique. Maybe you're carrying too much body fat. Maybe you don't have as much muscle as you'd like. That's generally a negative thought. However, that can push us on to become better, to do more. So although this is initially a negative thought and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm too overweight, I need to lose weight, it's not good for my health. Great. Let that spur you on to take action. Don't let that drown you out. Take the good from it. Take the good from it. Right, I'm going to use this as my motivation. Because the negative can be a very powerful driver of change. In fact, you'll often hear it in a lot of transformation stories. They'll say, I was just sick and tired of who I was becoming. The negativity was too much. People look at a picture, and that picture, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I look like that now. And that can be that negative thought that then transforms them and allows them to change. So not all negative thoughts have to take control of our head and spiral over and over again. We can utilize them to help us change. So next time you think of that and you say to yourself, oh, I'm not in the position I should be, I'm overweight, or I'm not as muscular as I want to be. Okay, change that. Of course, that is a very simple way to say it, but you can use that negativity. Use it to push you forward and take your first steps on your transformation. It might not sustain a long-term transformation, but it'll get you kick-started. And for most of you, that's what you need, the initial kickstart. And then you'll start to see results, and then you will keep going in your own pursuit. So that was that habit number 1. Again, turning negativity into positives by practicing gratitude. We take something that we're grateful for, even out of the most negative situations. That is the big difference between like an optimist and a pessimist. A pessimist would get surrounded by the negative, and that's all they think about. An optimist would maybe take that positive, that bit of gratitude, and that would help them push forward from there. Habit number 2, exercise daily. Now, I was careful with my words here. I said daily. Now, for a lot of you, you'll be thinking that isn't possible, and for some of you, it might not be. However, I try to do something physical every single day, and there's some days when I'm jam-packed at work and I physically can't. That's fine. However, for most of us, there is no excuse not to do 10 minutes of exercise. That's what I tell myself. See the actual act of getting your heart rate up, getting endorphins flowing, getting these good chemicals running around the body. That's going to leave you in a much better position to deal with negativity. Because again, there will be negative thoughts throughout your day, but I find that I tend to deal far better with them after I've exercised. Because the thing with dealing with negative thoughts is you just need to be in a clear and positive state of mind. So when those negative thoughts do come, these negative circumstances do come, you can then deal with them, and you don't let them take hold of you and cause all the destruction and chaos in your life and that overthinking. Again, this is no easy task, but you can utilize exercise to put you in a good position to deal with that negativity from there. So again, as I said, people overestimate what it needs to be. Like on my high performance day, I run for 15 minutes. And people say to me, oh, what's the point in that? Why'd you run for 15 minutes? Well, because I've woke up at 4 a.m. I don't feel great. I never jump out of bed. I'm never motivated to do it. I get out of bed. I'm generally not very happy to be up. I'm uncomfortable. Sometimes I don't feel great. But see, when I go out that run and I come back in, that resets up here. That puts me in a kind of level playing field. All that those negative thoughts that just jumped into my head as soon as I woke up. I went outside, I run for 15 minutes. Obviously, chemically things happen in the body, hormones change, and then we start to feel better and we can deal with those negative emotions better. So don't, again, let them just sit on you and drown you from there. You can do something about that. Exercise is a great way to deal with that from there. The next one works into our high performance day, and it's getting up early. So this is habit number 3, get up early. Now, the reason I say that is because I used to wake up a lot later than I wanted to. So if you intend to get up at a certain time and you wake up later than that, what we'll find is straight away you're starting your day in the negative. You're like, oh, I should have got up earlier. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. However, by getting up early, we can take hold of the day, because very, very rarely do you have a strong morning and not have a strong day. Like, how many times have you crushed your morning, you get things done, you get more done than you expect, and then the rest of your day, you just think, oh, that day was a waste of time. Very rarely. That never happens. So if you crush that morning, you get up early, you get shit done, you're in a much better position for the rest of the day. In terms of when these negative thoughts come into your head, you can think back and say, right, I've had a positive morning, I can push through this. Again, it allows you to deal better with those negative thoughts by getting up and taking hold of the day, not starting that day on the back foot. That's the big thing I took from there. With obviously getting up early, I do it on a high performance day, and the reason I do it on a high performance day is, one, to practice discipline, but it also almost invites that negativity into my life. Because as I said to you there, when I wake up, I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to be there, all these things. But what it's proven to me is I can push past that. I can act regardless of these negative thoughts, because that's a strong position to be in. You can act regardless of your emotions and regardless of what your brain's telling you right now. You become a very powerful person, because that's what stops most people from taking action, is these negative thoughts. They take hold of them and that stops them. However, what we're learning to do is deal with them better. So again, you can do that by starting to get up early and get used to doing that on a regular basis. One of my favorite ones here, probably most impactful in the short term, is cold water exposure. Very simply, cold shower, ice bath, something that is so unbelievably cold that those negative thoughts in your head, which again, 80% of our thoughts are negative, they go like that. In the click of a finger, they disappear, because our body is then put into a fight or flight response, this kind of like survival response from the body, and we don't have time to think, we only have time to act. So our body straight away shuts into that survival state. We start to hyperventilate, we start to almost panic a little bit. But once you get past that initial stage of hyperventilation, you calm down, you feel so much more relaxed. You've overcome the negative thoughts. So again, that can put you in a really good position to then go and act. Like if I'm having a really busy day and I don't feel focused, and I'm going in the shower, I'll be turning that to cold. Like I'll shower, I'll clean myself, and then I'm turning it to cold, because I know for a fact when I come out of that shower, whatever thoughts are taking hold of my head, they will almost be somewhat reset. It's a very powerful tool you can use, and a habit that you should use on a regular basis to overcome that negativity and kind of push that to the side from there. So I would definitely try that. Even just think about it, like before you go in the shower, think of, what am I thinking about right now? What is this thought that's overplaying in my head? When you come out that cold shower, think about it. Is that still there? Likely not. Likely you'll feel a lot more calm and relaxed and in a better position to focus. Because as well as that kind of focused state that we become in, we also get a roughly 250% increase in dopamine, which is very significant. Again, that's going to alter how you feel. So rather than being in a negative state, it can move us to a more positive state from there because of that dopamine. Now, habit number 5, very simply, is one of my favorites, a very, very positive one for the long term, is a negativity audit. Now, this is a habit that you could use. You could use it once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year. And very simply, all you're doing is you're auditing your life, your actions, your circumstances, what's happening, and you're looking for the negative things. So what is causing the most of these negative thoughts? It could be the type of people you're around, could be the environment you're in. By doing this audit, you can look and find out what that is, and then you can act based off of that. So you can better deal with these negative circumstances, these negative thoughts. So the way I usually do it is at the end of the day or at the end of a week, I can sit down and I can write down those points where I felt negative. Again, you think back and you trace it back to, where did that stem from? Where did these negative thoughts kickstart from? Very difficult if it's just when you wake up in the morning and it's straight into your head. That's obviously a more difficult issue to deal with. However, if it is actually something external that's causing it, then you could actually act on that. If it's, as I said, a friend group, an environment you're in, you can change that. But the only reason you can change that is because you found out where it comes from. And you do that by auditing your environment. Okay, so again, as I said, very simple. The one that for me stood out the most was alcohol. Now, I didn't have alcohol on a like every single week or anything like that, but I found the more frequently I would drink alcohol, the more negatively I would think, which is very simple. It's part and parcel, isn't it? Alcohol has that effect on our body. It's a depressant almost, so it almost increases those amount of negative thoughts. So to me, it makes no sense to drink on a weekly basis. It would be stupid. In fact, to me, it only makes sense to drink if it is, I don't know, if it's going to heighten some experience or whatever, or it's on a very like irregular basis and it's not 2, 3, 4 nights in a row, and I know I'm going to feel bad for the next 2 or 3 days. It's not worth it to me. But the only reason I found that out was by doing a negativity audit. I thought of that. I was like, right, what's the one thing in my life that's holding me back, that's causing these negative thoughts? That was the one that stood out. In the past, it could have been certain, I don't know, people I was around, which I removed, but then that was the big one for me. So you can think of it for you. It could be something as simple as, I don't know, one of your vices, in the sense of it could be playing Xbox. That's what it used to be for a lot of young guys have that problem. It could be overeating, these things. Is that what kickstarts a lot of your negative thoughts? Well, we've audited that. Now we know what to act on. Now we know what to change to remove the frequency of those negative thoughts, because that's what's causing a lot of them. So you can use that to act from there. The one thing as well I find is, see, when we remove any bad habit, so for example, let's say it was alcohol, and a lot of people, let's say you're somebody that goes out, you drink every single weekend, right? You know it causes you to think negatively for the next 2 days and you want to remove it. That may be difficult because you've done it for years. It's part of your routine, your lifestyle, your friends expect it of you. What you then need to do is not only remove it, but replace it. Because the problem I see all too often is people will remove a bad habit and say, I'm not going out drinking this weekend. Great, what are you going to do? Because if you're sitting in the house yourself, you are going to get bored, your mind will take over again, and you will do something. We need to fill the gaps. So to replace a bad habit with a positive one, that is what you can do. So once you've filled out that negativity of it, again, very simply, get a pen and paper, write down things that cause more negative thoughts during your day or during your week. Remove them. What could you do instead of that? Could you go to the gym? Could you read? Could you go and spend time with someone else? You could be watching TV if that causes you to think more positively. Whatever that is, we audit it, we remove it, we replace it. Very simply, you can use that 3-step process and that helps you do that. Because what I tend to replace a lot of my things with is positive content. Like some people like, oh, well, I watch Netflix all the time and I watch like horror movies and depressing stuff like that. Well, no wonder you feel that way after. No wonder you feel negative. But how about if you replace that with some positive content? And you're consuming stuff that motivates you, that inspires you, that helps you learn. It's going to make you feel far more positive and push out those negative thoughts. And that's a better way to deal with them. So again, as I said before at the start of this podcast, we're all going to deal with a lot of negative thoughts. But what we can do is we'll deal with them better, very simply. Don't let them take control of you, take hold of you, manage them better, and then you can act better, and even in regardless of how you're feeling with them. So there's a very good quote I want to finish on for today, and it's by Brian Tracy, who is an author of a really good book, a few really good books actually. I would recommend that you check him out. And the quote goes very simply like this: you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude towards what happens to you. And in that, you'll be mastering change rather than allowing it to master you. And what I got from that was, yes, there are things that happen out of our control. There will be negative thoughts, but you control how you then react to them. So as I said in the beginning, we cannot remove them from our mind, but we can deal with them far better by practicing gratitude, by utilizing cold water exposure, by doing those negativity audits. That is how we deal better with it, because as I said in the beginning, 80% of our thoughts are negative. It's the same for an optimist. It's very similar for a pessimist. There may be differences in that, but we all have negative thoughts. It's how we deal with them that matters. That is the one point I want you to take from this podcast. You can deal with your negativity better, which can push you forward in life. And I'm sure you've experienced that at some point. But as ever, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you took something valuable from it, especially that last point I mentioned there. I hope you can apply it to your life and continue to pursue constant improvement. Thank you for listening.